The next session is decks and proposals, what sponsors want and how to use decks and proposals to hopefully get a sponsorship. We're going to line up our panelists. We have Joe Bowman, buddy of mine from Slime. Hey, Joe. Joe bought me lunch a couple of weeks ago in San Luis Obispo. Thank you again. It was so fun to hang out with Joe. We have Ben Dolan, VP of Marketing, VP Racing Fuels. We have Chris Meyer. Is Chris up? I guess we're all up. Senior Marketing Specialist at Maxis. Dave Golland. Dave, you're at airport, right? You're on your way to Indy, I think, for motocross.
Yeah, I'm actually just got here. So
you just got there, right on. Well, thank you. Dave's Vice President of Motorsports for Monster Energy. And Megan also. Megan's going to sort of wrap up this session after I speak with the panelists about what they look for in decks and proposals and what gets their attention. And then Megan will spend the last 15, 20 minutes teaching us how to create decks and how to write proposals. So this ought to be a good session. It's going to be a great closer. And, I say Chris Meyer. I say Chris from Axis, right?
I'm here. By the way, Dave, I'm going to be watching you, Dave. So you're going to hear the right thing.
I can hear a little bit there.
Thanks, Tom.
So that's Tom Kelly, the CFO of Monster, who just chimed in. Now we're all nervous. Now Dave and I are nervous.
Yeah, don't be nervous. I'm on another call too. I'm multitasking.
Put him on. There we go. Put him on. Okay, so we're going to ask Tom the first question. Tom, what does ROI mean? No.
Yes, it's a return on investment, and how we measure that in sports is very subjective. So it lacks objectivity, where $1 of spend doesn't necessarily translate into $1 of sales or profits. So it's if the riders are good, if the sports athletes that we invest in do well, that's where it's all about I guess in the term they call it eyeballs. How many eyeballs see that Monster logo out there in the winner's circle? So if you can get to the podium, get to the winner's circle, and Monster is displayed, that's where we get our benefits. So that would be my ROI.
And you guys are doing a great job of that. Holy cow. Just look at the success of the brand, the sales, the stock, everything. Congratulations. Nice job.
I'm going to let my colleague Dave get into more of the details. Dave, I won't be too critical on whatever you say. So.
No, but you summed it all up. That's what I tell Rodney every single day when we're trying to hire somebody new.
Yeah. All right. Well, session's over. We're done. We're all good.
And Dave, I don't know if you know the story of American Pharoah, but you can tell him that was one of our advertising deals. I don't know if that's been talked about before, but that's when we came in 3 days before the horse was going to ride in its last leg of the Derby or the trifecta, whatever horse racing that they talk about. And we signed a deal with American Pharoah 3 days ahead of time. What was the race? I don't know if it was
the Belmont.
Belmont Stakes. He won, so he won the Triple Crown. Yeah, we got a lot of eyeballs on that. So, that was a good ROI, Alex.
That was Mitch Covington, I think, who put that one together, right? Mitch did that.
Yeah, he almost lost his job over it.
Yeah, there was a story that has a lot more details than what I've just mentioned. So
he took a big risk on that one, but it worked out.
To the Tiger Woods golf bag, how do you measure certain things? It's again, you don't go down on a piece of paper to say that 6% return on my $100,000 bond investment. It's not that type of an ROI. It's the buzz that you create out there. And people talk. So a lot of people talk Monday morning, hey, did you see that over the weekend? Or, hey, did you see that guy on motocross? And so it's the buzz that we invest in. And so anyway, I'm more in finance. I've got to go back to finance. So I'll let Dave, the marketer, talk all about it. But good presentations from everybody so far. And hope to give you a longer on the next seminar that you have on.
Right on. Well, thanks, Tom. Thanks for joining in. And I agree. I think these have been wonderful sessions. The panelists have been outstanding.
Yeah, no, they really have. It's good to I'm the old guy. What is I don't know, the OG. So it's good to see all the young folks come in and do some of the things that we were thinking about years ago, but you guys are actually putting it into reality. So it's good to see.
Well, let me ask this real quick. What are Monster's sales? And how has it grown over the past decade using this kind of strategy of brand ambassadors representing the brands through athletes? Just quick numbers.
When I started, this is where, I tell the youngins that are coming up, you never know what's going to hit. And when I started with the company, in fact, Alex, you and I worked together in the years where it was about $50 or $100 million a
Yes.
year in sales. And now we're in excess or right around 6 billion.
Six
So,
billion in sales,
Yes,
annual
and
sales.
a lot of that was attributable to the marketing that we did early on when we associated Monster brand with the skateboarders and the extreme sports, the BMX riders. And I might be wrong on some of those, but it was all that type of sports that we associated the Monster brand with. And that's where I wouldn't say cult, but that's where the energy came from those individuals. And it just spreads. And everybody, and one of the things that Monster always wants to do is be cool. And so to associate our brand with cool people, that's where we rely on, the athletes that have been on this forum we want to be cool. So we hang around cool people. So that's the marketing strategy. So
I tell you what, motocross is a pretty damn cool
and-
sport with a lot of cool personalities. I'll tell you that.
and Dave wrote all that dialogue for me. So thanks, Dave, for writing that. I just recited it right now.
Dave, did you know that he was joining the call today?
No, I didn't, but I'm glad he did because he is an OG of the company, and it's nice to hear that, that he, obviously he was around and understands exactly how we got there. It wasn't the most orthodox way of marketing, for sure, I just wish I had been there, I wish I had been there, right from the beginning, because it's an unbelievable company. And but it doesn't work. It's not normal by any stretch of the imagination, because you would back in those days, print ads were probably the biggest thing. Everybody was, going to motocross action, and they were, but at the time, as the story goes, we didn't have the company didn't have a lot of money. And so we had to come up with other ways to try and get our logo out there. And I contributed a lot of it to Mark Hall, who knew how to go and get athletes that have devoted their time, energy, and efforts to be the very best at what they do. And he found them in action sports when action sports was just starting to go off. And I think X Games was the one that really set us apart from everywhere else, because it had a crossover of everything. It had skate, it had FMX, it had a little bit of everything. And he walked around with a bag of money and knew people that were going to get on TV for the final rounds, and handed out cash to put their logo on the helmet, and that's how they got seen. The other thing that they do a lot, that we do a lot of, is sampling. We now that we're involved with events at a big level, where we're the title sponsor, we do sampling. We put cans in hand, and I mean, when you're in the beverage business, you have to have people have to try the product. They just can't see the product, on the internet and know what it is, or even have a way to taste it or understand it. And so, the company has done a great job at engaging with its consumer on its own, on its own level. And so I think that was another key component to the success of Monster. But overarching all of it was winning. If winning, Rodney, if the people on this call may or may not know Rodney, but Rodney is our current CEO of the company, and he has instilled in us that we get the very best. That because what happens is, just quickly, is back in the day when you had magazines, we couldn't put an ad in every single magazine because it would just cost too much money. But every magazine was at an event, and if your rider or racer or car driver or whatever won, you had all of the magazines talking about it. So your logo would appear everywhere. So instead of paying the medias or the agencies, because we never really used, we barely use it. Well, we use some agencies now, but we don't really look to use agencies because they charge too much money. And why do you, if you know the DNA of your brand, why do you have to pay them for creative. I mean, so so anyway, so you when you're looking for the best riders or the best drivers or those best athletes, they're going to get you the media coverage. One of the hard parts, and I came in late on your Instagram thing and your social media. There is so much social media today that if you do not set yourself apart, you will be overlooked. You'll be swiped. You'll be, you know, they'll only look at you for a certain second. And how does that really qualify you to, to really say that, hey, look at that's, that's working. So, but what does work is devoting yourself to something, a sport that you put everything else aside, in some
So
cases
let's go deeper on
growing
that for
up.
just a second, Dave. Let's go deeper on that. When you're looking for teams to represent Monster, and I think you told me once there are 300, at least in motorsports alone, and I know you have thousands of athletes, but when you're looking for a new team and they want to approach you because they think they're a good fit, do you look at decks and proposals? Do you take phone calls? Do you take emails? What's the method that a team can reach you? This session is going to be about decks and proposals, and we'll talk about
Yeah.
what works and what's effective. But what
Yeah.
has worked for those 300 motorsports teams that you currently work with in terms of getting your attention?
Yeah, in my case, with decks, and I'm probably like a lot of these people, on the call. You receive a stack come, like October and November, and because that's sort of the timeline of everybody's budget. Again, I think that when you're looking for sponsorship, you have to have some idea of what's really going on, and you have to ask the questions. You have to ask, when are their budgets?
Exactly.
Japanese manufacturers, their budgets come out in June or July. So everybody's year end kind of moves. And you should, try and understand when they're getting new money. You should try and understand, what riders or what racers are coming and going. Don't just think that, hey, look at just because Monster's got 6 riders, we could go with 6 more. I mean, we don't need them all. If we've got the best of the best, and they're winning, why would we need more? We don't need to keep adding more riders. And one of the things too is it starts to, when you keep adding stuff, it starts to dilute the brand, because then it doesn't, continue to be either special or authentic, because you're just adding more and more and more people, and that doesn't necessarily work all the time, so you have to be very, very careful.
You need a competitor to beat, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
you need, that's exactly it. I for example, I'll give you a short example. I didn't at Loretta Lynn's, we took Loretta Lynn's on this year or last year. We took Loretta's on last year, and it was a Red Bull event prior to us, but it was a property that we wanted to get involved with. But at the same time, Red Bull, I told Red Bull that they could come to the event. They chose not to, but I was like, hey, look, and even though I'm going to be the title sponsor of the event, if you want to be in the parking lot, no different than at Supercross, that's okay. We need, healthy competition, is good for all of us. It pushes all of us to, stay grounded, stay focused, and keep working. But the proposals come in, but if it's for motocross and you see I've got already 2 or 3 teams and I've got 9 or 10 athletes, and that are winning, how are you going to enhance whatever I've got? So you have to do as a competitor. Now, if you're somebody coming up, and you want us to, look at you, 9 times out of 10, we are already looking at us. Make an introduction at a race. Make an introduction when we see you at a show. Make an introduction whenever we can see you. Just come up and say, hi, my name's such and such. Because I think what happens to a lot of us, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you just get a stack, every year. How do you, and one just, between trying to do your budget and trying to lay out your sales projective for the next year and everything else that goes along with that, how do you be able to get through it? I think it has to be more personal. Yes, we are looking. Yes, we are trying to find the next whomever it may be, whether it be in car racing or whether it be powerboat racing or whatever. And if there's things that you do that aren't in our portfolio, send a proposal or a PDF. I mean, I get stuff that's on, people that just write it out on a piece of paper. I can't give that to a CEO of a $6 billion company. I don't
Right.
make all the, I'm a soldier. I'm just providing the options to our CEO, who then makes a decision.
And
It
I'm
has
assuming that a lot of the other panelists probably have the same issue where, Chris, you just chimed in for a second. Chris Meyer from Axis, you were talking about competition and, having more brands. I assume you're going to probably parallel what Dave is saying about seeing a lot of different decks or proposals.
Yeah.
What makes them
Yeah.
stick out? I know that you and I were talking that, sponsorship is a business. So
Yeah, I mean,
it is a business for the brand.
The ones that have been put together thoughtfully, that the people that have put it together are aware that they're a business and a brand, and they're approaching it like that. To the points just made, that they understand they've got to find a hole where we need them. We're not a charity. I mean, there's certainly passion in the industry. There's a lot of passionate people that work for us and work with us, and we're fans of the sports we're involved in, but we can't make bad business decisions or we won't have jobs. We won't be able to provide product to sponsored athletes. So there has to be a need. So if you look at Champ Off-Road, for instance, well, if we sponsor all the Pro 4 teams, because we have one of the best project tires on the market, what's the point? We don't have anyone to beat. We can't even differentiate our product versus a competitor. So at some point, like, it goes back to ROI, like, what's the return on adding the next guy? So I think it's important in a deck that that's very concisely and quickly communicated. It's no different than taking the time to research the company that you're applying for a job with, and sprinkling the language that you find on their website into your pitch deck, and making sure that your photography is of a professional quality, that you're taking this seriously. You're asking someone to give you money. What are you trading for it?
Exactly.
Because if it's just results, that may not be enough.
Have you ever given a sponsorship to somebody just from them sending you a deck or a proposal, or have you gotten to know them first?
No, I mean, you typally build a relationship, right?
Okay, good.
Good. Unless someone has just grotesquely undervalued themselves, if they're offering themselves for pennies on the dollar and they're actually worth a lot more, that's pretty rare that happens, though. Most people go the other way, right? So
good. And that's why I'm asking. And the main reason, Chris, is so in my narratives, I like to say that there's a difference between a deck and a proposal. And many of you have heard this a lot of times, but I'll say it over and over. The deck is the attention getter. It's what a athlete uses to get to know a brand and start a conversation and hopefully begin and develop a relationship. And once that relationship has been developed and the athlete knows the company, like you're saying, has done the homework and knows what the company wants, and then the company knows the athlete, knows what the athlete can do, and knows them by name, where if the athlete calls, the company picks up the phone, and you have a relationship, well, then you can write a proposal. You don't propose to somebody you don't know. And the proposal now proposes an official business relationship. This is what I will do as an extension of your marketing arm. And this is how we will work together professionally in order to create more sales for you or brand equity. So there is a difference between a deck and a proposal. The deck is eye candy. The proposal can be used as a legal document, or at least parts of it can be cut and pasted into the Schedule A of a legal document, because you're telling them this is what I'm going to give you in return for sponsorship. And if you do that, there will be a contract at some point that a lawyer will draft up, and you will have to execute on your stated deliverables. So a deck can be colorful. It can be eye candy. It can be a video. It can even be a website. It can be a PDF file. It can be anything that looks good, that relates to the company and shows the company how you can help them sell, or how you can create B2B to them, or how you can generate a hospitality environment where they can take out some of their biggest customers and clients and vendors and suppliers. Whereas the proposal is saying, this is specifically what I'll do during this time period. And a proposal can be a Word document.
Yeah.
And again, at the end of this, we'll show you how to create a deck and how to write a proposal. But I just wanted to clarify that I believe that there's a difference. And I know that 99.9% of all athletes out there use one document as both a deck and a proposal, and they send the same one to every company that they're approaching, as opposed to customizing it to that specific company
Right.
that they want to reach and speak to. So I'm going to change gears a little bit here. We're going to go over to Ben at VP Racing Fuels, because you guys sponsor a lot of athletes, a lot of racing series. I'm sure you see tons of decks and tons of proposals and tons of emails and tons of requests for money. What gets your attention, and what is actually effective in getting that relationship started to create a conversation around sponsorship that might one day in the future lead to a sponsorship?
So I think a couple of the panelists really, they said a couple of things that I agree with, and it resonates, is that relationship on the front end, getting a blind proposal, or whether it's a proposal or a pitch deck. That's really tough. It's going to be hard to get a call back, particularly because, as you said, they tend to be blanket sent and they're not personalized. So I think the example of as you might if you were looking for a job and writing a cover letter, personalizing it, because for us, there's we're perceived as being a very narrow piece of the market when we have aerosols and cleaning products, detailing products, oils, coolants, all these other products that people aren't aware of commonly. And typically the people who are pitching us aren't aware of that either. And so they create a very narrow place for themselves to fit. And rather than saying, I'm reaching a really interesting lookalike audience for you. Here's the demographics of who's following me on social. Here's some of the examples of activities I've done, videos I've created for my sponsors. Maybe they're how-tos, they're explainer videos, things that are more than just a sticker on a bike, because a sticker on a bike is really small. If it's not tattooed on your forehead and really big on your shirt, it's going to be really tough for me to justify another eyeball and paying for an eyeball versus paying for consideration and decision level content that you created, because you're a really good content creator and maybe you have other people helping you create content. And you can give some examples of, and I just caught the very end of Rich on the last segment talking about the use of Hook It. But one of the things he mentioned that is really important is the quality score of that post that you're putting out. So one of the last things he said was, when it is, and I know it's free for athletes, when it is a post dedicated to a sponsor, and you can show me that you have experience creating meaningful, engaging posts for your sponsors and content for your sponsors, that to me is more important than being one of 7 people in a post. The quality score is going to be much higher. And so my average ad value on the posts that you're doing for me are going to be a lot higher. So you're going to drive more value.
Okay, right on. And George is saying we have a question.
Yeah, we actually do have a question, and I think either Joe or Chris could probably answer this the best for motocross. Nico asked, has there been a recent example of a deck or a proposal that has really stood out? A question for anyone on the panel, actually. So let's do Joe, since we haven't heard from Joe much.
Joe Bowman, Marketing Director of Slime. And by the way, if you guys are unfamiliar with Slime's parent company, ITW Group is a massive company with a ton of brands. Joe can tell us all the brands underneath the umbrella.
Yeah, was there a question? I didn't hear the question.
Okay, I'll repeat. No worries, I can repeat it again. Has there been a recent example of a deck or a proposal that has really stood out? Question for anyone on the panel, but let's let Joe answer.
Oh, sorry, I thought there was one of the athletes was on asking a question. My things I fall back on for Slime is that whether it's a deck or an email or a letter or even in person at an event is please be somewhat of an expert or a user of our products. So our products go across anything with tires to prevent and repair flats. So with that, we're not only looking for content because you can win a race and you can post about that, but how about other uses of our products? So I just made a list of the main teams that we've ever sponsored and what do they have in common. They all came up to me. They already knew about slime and they used it. Pistol Pete used it in his trailer tires to get to and from races. Will Higman was a lumber salesman. They used it in all their trucks for making a living Monday through Friday using our products so they could go have fun and race on the weekends and prevent flats and win races. Sarah Price already was really good at our products. And then Andy Grider, he showed his Dakar bike at our booth at the Mid-State Fair. So even though motocross bikes are small, sometimes that could be a good opportunity for you to help a brand in their trade show booth, their dealer show booth. They're going to have a headquarters meeting at AutoZone or some big customer. Because you're small and nimble, you can show up and help a brand a lot easier than, say, we had a mega truck in one of our booths one time. So however you approach, whether it's in person or following up with a deck, put yourself in the shoes of that brand. A lot of the brands on the panel are specific, really focused on racing, but VP Fuels, I didn't know you had that many other products. So cool there. You know, you want your teams to be able to represent those products. We get AutoZone or Napa or Walmart contacting us. Hey, can you appear at this X event? My first thing is where are our teams located around the country? So add that in your deck.
Yeah.
If you're based in Las Vegas, there's 5,000 brands have booths at those various trade shows that are in Vegas. So don't be afraid to reach out to a brand that might not be something that you use specifically with your bike to race, but maybe you use it on your truck or your trailer to get to the races. Maybe you drink or eat their beverages, just not only, during racing weekend, but add what else you do in life. You never know when that
And put that in the
company
deck.
like Slime, we're looking for our official plumber of Slime, official contractor of Slime, official landscaper of Slime, and we don't have any of those people.
And make sure it's in the deck so that Slime can see that that's something that that athlete can do for your brand. George is signaling me that we have another question.
Yeah, actually, one of our panelists, Megan, has 2 questions, so I'd like to hear what she has to say.
Yes, thanks, guys. So, okay, for me personally, I have some questions for you guys, and then also just want to confirm for my knowledge. And so, for Joe or Ben, Dave, Chris, for any of you guys, you can answer this. But what do brands look for specifically in their decks? Is it? I mean, we mentioned content. We mentioned already being a user of their products, but is there other things that you're looking for, like hospitality, B2B relationships, appearances, anything else like that?
Yeah, I can maybe expand a little bit and sort of what Joe mentioned, and when he mentioned trade shows, for example, and some of the other lifestyle related comments that were there. So one of the best decks I've ever received, I just got within the last month, and it was from a very well-known racer from one of the most well-known race series in all of racing, and he put together a deck that really showed his personality. So we knew that he was probably a good culture fit for us, and he fit with the personality of our business. But what he did is he showed those other areas of his life that he's active and he's involved in outdoors. He's on a particular show, for example. So there's a lot of other areas of his life that he's able to add value beyond just racing. And he had the typical, which is always required. What are your plans for the next season? What are your current followers? What's been your reach and your engagement? Some of the KPIs that you would expect to see. So there's there was that professional level of content, but then he added that personal level of a peek behind the scenes into his life where he could use all the other products that we offer. across the board, whether it's the high performance oils, certainly the fuel in his snowmobile or his UTV, just all sorts of examples. And it was, you really got a feel for the person and the type of culture match for our company.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Now, so that was a deck that started the relationship, or at least started a conversation. Will you then be looking for a proposal from that athlete in order to determine whether or not you're going to sponsor them?
Yep. So kind of like you said, Alex, there's a big difference between the pitch deck and the proposal. So the proposal, after that conversation, then the proposal that I'm expecting to see would be specific deliverables through the year. How frequently are you going to be committed to posting? What kind of content are you going to be getting us? Will you do 5 videos across 3 of our products, or 3 videos across 5 of our products? I mean, it really, I really need to see specific measurables, because what's happened historically is we hear a lot on the front end, and you get to the end of the season, and it's time for renewal, and you say, well, what did you do this year? I'm looking at my Hook It numbers, and you underperformed on Hook It, and I really didn't see a lot else from you that was not social related. Your racing activity was marginal, and the response is always, well, I wouldn't do anything you asked me to do. You just didn't ask. Well, they've got to be an extension of our team. The idea is for us to be able to reach their audience, not the other way around. And so I'm expecting them to bring the opportunities to us throughout the season to add additional value, not wait for a phone call, because we're just too busy to be tracking down to that level each person.
Right. Oh yeah.
And so the specific deliverables that are in there, don't let it get to the end of the season and a sponsor says to you, what did you do this season? And you have to respond, well, I would have done whatever you asked me to do, you just didn't ask. And that's about the worst position you can put yourself in.
And talking about being too busy, I mean, Dave, if you have 300 motorsports teams and they're all sending you content and they're all sending you videos and performance, how they did after an event, that obviously is very overwhelming in terms of what you can read. You can't read all that. You can't read all the decks that you get. What specifically will get your attention and put something at the top of the pile that might start that conversation for a potential sponsorship, whether it's a year or 2 down the road or even that season? What can a racer rider do to get Monster's attention?
I think the overlying theme here with all of us is that when you said that somebody does a deck or a proposal and sends it to us and it's just the same for every single company, that's not what it should be. What we're all looking for is we're looking for those individuals that know what each of our company is about and what it stands for.
Like what Chris
And
said.
I think that that's, if you can understand, if you take the time to research the company and understand its core DNA and the message that it's trying to send, its brand identity, and you include that in your proposal or deck, or you include that in your conversation when you're speaking to one of us, I think that goes a long way, because it's less education that we have to do. We don't want to have to educate everybody. We expect people, when they're asking for money and support, that they know who we are.
Excellent. And I suppose Monster wants to win, Monster wants sampling, and Monster wants to be cool. Now, George,
we want to win. We just want to win.
Just want to win. Nice. All right, George.
So the question that I had was from one of our audience members was, do we devote time to sending out 10 decks or a limited amount of decks with a lot of research, or are we better off sending out more and focusing more on getting our deck out there to as many companies as possible?
I want Chris to answer this because I know what he's going to say.
You send out decks to people that you want to be a business partner with. Like your goal should be to grow a long-term partnership with a brand and grow your brand with them. Our brand can help you become more valuable, and you can offer legitimacy and authenticity to our brand. So, you know, just as important as it is for you to fit our culture and our brand and the goals and ideals that we have for what Maxis is, it's important that it's a fit for you, that you can grow into. So just blasting everyone that you can with a deck, I think it's a waste of time.
And you can see through that too. When you get a
Obviously,
deck,
it
you
depends
can
on what your
tell.
need is. You need to define what you need and at what level. You know, there's we talked about entry tier moto sponsorship, pro level sponsorship. You know, there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but you really need to define what you need and then identify if what you need from me is something, you know, where we can make a trade that's valuable to both of us. And I'm not saying don't waste your time. I think the other thing that has just resonated all day long when I popped in and out is this is a small industry. Like, shake hands. If you're just the littlest bit extroverted, and even if you're not, talk to people, build relationships.
Mhm.
If you've ever taken a sales class, like people will make bad business decisions with people they like.
That's interesting.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
it's
a good way of putting it.
true,
You're right.
you know, and we're talking about being cool, right? Well, what does cool do? It moves a decision for a consumer out of a features and benefits logical zone and into an emotional one where people tend to swipe credit cards and do illogical things. You know, like in that vein, like I've lost my train of thought now, but
But on that same note, you were talking earlier about stickers and visibility through stickers. And I want to jump over to Joe real quick because I've been with Joe when he has put stickers on bouncers. He puts stickers everywhere we go. I can't
The
leave an
Lucas
event
Oil
without-
Trophy, the Lucas
I-
Oil Trophy case in the suite at the Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, if
underneath
you
the-
look at the championship trophy, it'll say slime up front. And if you're walking out of a meeting or you're going to have a slime sticker on your back, get ready. Joe, how about with slime? What same question, I guess.
Yeah, and I like what you just said too, about the sales oriented thing. We always grew our brand saying that we wanted to be a fun company to do business with, and we wanted to, you know, like doing business with you. So if you're fun, cool, et cetera, that's important. I just made a note that if I was going to do a deck from my team, I would have a second one that's super generic that you could give to a restaurant at one of the locations you always race at, or you name it, company, wherever you're going. And sometimes the decks don't even include the racing schedule, like where are the races and what towns are they in? Because a lot of people think that, oh, you already know that where we race, but
Yeah,
a lot of these sponsors will not know where you race, when and where. So put that in there for sure.
that makes
Put
sense.
in your how to contact you, where your headquarters are. And then you guys said earlier about what your other expertise or hobbies are, that you never know when that can cross over to just a generic potential sponsor.
Yeah.
But as far as stickers, I think the first year that I worked my ass off at Score races, we did the contingency program. At the end of the year, Sal Fish said he felt like Slime had come further than any brand in their first year of being involved, because we did the contingency. We just wanted you to race with our small sticker. If you won your class, you won our products, and it just grew and grew and grew.
Mhm.
We were lucky there because there are not a lot of tire sealant companies out there to compete with. So we were having 7 or 8 winners of the Baja 1000 every year. The first year, monster idea, I was actually writing checks to teams or handing out piles of pesos as they came across the finish line and won their first race. We paid them their contingency right then and there.
In pesos, good for you.
I feel like I'm kind of rambling, but you know,
Well,
the
Megan,
more you
did Joe
do,
answer
the
your
more you
question
get
about
out
what
of it.
goes into a deck?
Yeah. Well, yeah, more what goes into a deck.
Megan, did he get most of that? Did we cover
I
most
would
of that?
say one last thing to put in a
Okay.
deck, put some video links, YouTube or whatever,
There you go.
to maybe a testimonial you did for another sponsor that was super successful for them. Another way Slime grew our business is we always wanted testimonials and other people talking about our product, not just us. So if you've had some really successful testimonials for some of your current sponsors, get those featured front and forward in the deck or the presentation, or however you email it to the person. That stuff will stand out. You know,
Yep.
we are always challenged at Slime to get new and fresh content, testimonials, people using our products successfully. We have a wide range of products, so it's a big challenge for us, and our current teams can't really keep up. Everyone's very busy.
And that
My
B2B
last
aspect, I
point-
think, is
my
very
last
important.
point, I would say my last point, you said how the industry is small. It is amazing to me at a Best in the Desert race or a score race that will be set up there at contingency all day long, and only probably 5% of the teams will get out of their vehicle and come and actually say hi to us and learn what's new about our product maybe. So if only
Interesting.
5% of the people are working their ass off going for it, you know, be one of those 5%, you'll do good.
Nice. That's actually useful information. Megan?
That's a great point.
Yes, no, he got everything, and thank you guys for all that. And so one thing that I've noticed with clients that I work with for racers is so I make decks for other teams, and they just want me to make them like a template deck that they do end up sending to everybody, and I try to get it through their heads that you need to make it custom and unique for whatever company that you're trying to work with. And you know, maybe they just don't want to pay a designer to make their decks for them, or maybe, you know, they're just kind of being a little lazy about it and think that they can just use one and reach as many people as they can with that. But I like that you guys are validating what I've been trying to tell racers.
Let's go into that for a second. What should go into a deck when you're helping create a deck for a client or a racer? What do you put into a deck? And we only have about 15 minutes total left. And then also, what should go into a proposal?
Yeah, so real quick, and actually, I'm going to be doing my own webinar on Monday, September 5th, and then also I'm going to be doing the same one on Tuesday, September 6th. So if there's any riders or any racers here, I'm going to be going into a deep dive about how to make a deck, what to include, how to fix yours if you've got it all wrong. So pretty much everything that we've been talking about here. I love what you guys have been saying. I've been taking tons of notes, and I'll make sure to include that in my presentation that I'm going to be doing next week or the week after. But yeah, so you want to make sure that your deck is more of a visual presentation. So it could be a video, it could be a link to a presentation, or it could just be an attachment that you send in an email, but you want it to be very graphic heavy, and by that I mean include lots of pictures, include lots of videos. I love that Joe said include a testimonial video that you've done for another sponsor of yours. That's something that's really good that you could share with them, and they can see, you know, how passionate you are about using that product, how it's helped you either win races or off the track, and how you could do kind of that same thing for the company that you are pitching to. So like you said, include your race schedule, include your contact information, include how you can actually be an asset to that company that you are pitching to. I always like to include that company's logo on the cover page of the pitch for them, as well as, you know, your own logo and your own picture, but including their logo and their colors and their branding throughout, so that way they can see that this was custom made just for that company, and so that way they can take you more seriously and know that you are very professional with this whole process. And so to go on the other hand, we've been talking about decks the whole time, but to talk about proposals, kind of like what Ben said, it's a Word document with a list of all the different deliverables and exactly what you are going to do. So you can get very specific with it. It can be, I've had ones done where I'm going to put your logo on the car, and it's going to be 10 inches wide and, this big, and it's going to go on this panel and this panel, and I'm going to have a 3-inch logo on my fire suit and, 2 on my helmet and, on the trailer. You can get very specific with it, but you need to make sure, if you are listing off all these things in your proposal and they agree to it, then you need to deliver and actually perform and do what you say that you're going to do, because there has been times where racers think, oh, well, this company doesn't go to the track, so they're never going to see it. Or maybe there's somehow a competitor brand on the bike as well, or something like that. You don't want to hurt yourself in that way. So making sure that once you get through the process of, they see your deck and they approve, they want to work together. Okay, now we've got to get specific. How are we going to do that? What campaigns do we have coming out next year? Is there certain products you're going to promote? You need to have meetings with the companies to figure all of that information out and then list it in a proposal that you both sign, and it can turn into that legal document like Alex said. And so I do have a sponsorship proposal template that Alex and I have worked together on, and I do have a coupon code. I sell it for $75. It's a Word document that's about, I think it's like 6 pages or something, and it has everything you need there. It's a template. All you do is fill in the blanks. I've got the areas highlighted, and it says, okay, like insert company name here, and then insert deliverables here, insert what races here, schedule, all that type of stuff. So Alex and I have set that up for you, and there is a coupon code. The code is Summit, and that will save you 25% off. And so if anybody is interested, if any of the riders who are either watching live or watching the replay want that proposal template, you can email Alex or myself, and we can send you that link and the coupon code.
So one thing as important as creating a deck or a proposal is the timing of the delivery of the document. And Dave, you hit on this about Japanese companies have different fiscal year ends. Let's go over real quick, all the panelists, just one by one. Start with Dave. What is Monster's fiscal year end? When is the best time for a rider to send you a deck, or let's say you've known them a while now, a proposal to be considered within the budget? What's the sweet spot window?
Well, I'm fortunate. I'm probably more fortunate than others, and I don't know if Mr. Kelly's still on here or not, but I don't have a budget. And so I have a guideline that I guess what we could call it. And so, and that's one of the good things about our company is that because if something comes along, like for example, the horse, we never planned on the horse, and it just kind of fell into our lap on a Monday afternoon. Or a Monday morning, and so, we were able to, our company, like I said, works a little bit differently than most. And so we don't lock ourselves in, because if something good comes along that we never planned for, and it's really going to do something good for the brand, we find the money.
Right.
And so,
you guys are printing cash over there, so the money's not a problem.
Again, I know you still got to sell it to Rodney, but at the end of the day, for us, it's timing is almost year round. So I would say, if you're looking to kind of send stuff into Monster, we take it all year long, because even though we may not, it may be halfway through a season already, but we look at it and then we can follow you and see what kind of results that you are getting. And then we can come back to you when it's time, like in the fall or at the beginning of the season, depending on what discipline you're actually in. So that's how we work. So ours may be a little bit different. I know when I worked at Kawasaki, everything happened in the fall. Yes, we got our budget. I knew what it was. August came around when we were speaking to people at Loretta Lynn's, and so I knew how much money I was spending. The contract started 2 months later. and the way we went.
And
you
that's
know,
relevant
so-
for motocross because a lot of the motocross brands
Yes.
are Japanese, at least the
Yes.
manufacturers are. So thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that part, the fiscal year of the Japanese companies. Ben, you were just considering a proposal and or just you got a great deck and now you're considering it for proposal. How about VP's timeline? Then we'll go to Joe and
Yep.
Chris.
Yes, so what seems to happen is a lot of people wait till SEMA or PRI,
Yes.
particularly PRI, and they will inundate the salespeople in the booth or myself. And I'll go hours without a break of just going from one person to the next. And it's really hard to differentiate yourself there. So I think as Joe had said earlier, we're at a lot of these races. We have some representation somewhere. It is very rare that there's ever been a time that we've done a sponsorship with someone we didn't get to know or we didn't know before we received the pitch deck. So establishing some sort of relationship or channel of communication prior to the fall, and then right around the fall, being able to recap, sort of as Megan said, in what you said, Alex, in your pitch deck, examples of the deliverable, maybe some testimonials from sponsorships in the past, so that you can begin to tee that up and you're prepared to have conversations probably in October, November, so that you're getting a proposal over by November. We already know what we're doing in December or January. We've got things pretty buttoned down. And not to, in our case, you know, even the factory teams, there's a lot beyond cash. So we do a ton of product sponsorship. So understanding that the other ways to get value, and it's not always just a check, because all the factory teams are getting
Exactly.
product sponsorship, because the power they can get from our fuel, as an example, an extra 3 to 5%, it would cost them exponentially more in engineering investment to get the same amount of power out of their bike without it. So there's other benefits beyond cash.
Penny saved is a penny earned. Absolutely. I'd say that to my kids all the time. You know, it's the less money you spend, the more money you're going to have in the end. Joe?
Yep. Same for us. We're flexible. We're always innovating new products. So in early next year, we're going to have a line of emergency roadside kit products, and that anyone, you know, a sponsor that can really help us with that angle would rise to the top. Fall is when we technically are budgeting for next year, and so that's that. But I think if I was a team and I had time on my hands, I would go ahead and invest it in contacting a few more sponsors, especially like Megan said, if you can actually fulfill what you're thinking you would do for that sponsor, go for it.
So like product launch, that's
5 days a
interesting.
year.
So it's no longer just about a fiscal year, but you're launching a product. And if they can help you and approach you at the time of a product launch, a lot of manufacturers, auto manufacturers especially, are that way as well. That's where their big budgets are, is when they're launching a new product.
Be creative when you're watching the news and watching the industry and you see a brand about to do something.
That's when they have money.
With a launch or with an event or whatever, and especially if it's in your area, or you know you're going to be representing one brand at SEMA, spend some extra time, get some extra badges for your people to go out and research what other potential sponsors are doing at that event. Go in, learn what they're saying, what they're doing. If they're at a trade show, they are all in. If they have a booth at a trade show, they put a lot of time and money into whatever they're presenting. So go learn what that is and see if you can help them out.
Amen. That's I haven't heard that yet, but that's perfect. I love that. Chris, what's a good time to approach Maxxis?
Technically, you know, we open our sponsorship window at the beginning of September. It's open for 2 months, but as everyone has said here, you know, I think the key is building relationships. I said there's 2 times, right at the beginning of the sponsorship window before we're tired of reviewing things. So, you know, get in early if you're traditionally applying. And then if you've had time to have a meaningful conversation with me or someone else on the staff, And it's come to the point where I've said something like, hey, send me a deck. That's your time. Send me your deck.
Yeah.
So point being, take the time to talk to people, build relationships. And then when that opportunity strikes, you have to have a deck ready. You have to know you came to talk to me, what products you want to run from me, you know, those types of things. And then you go home, you switch out your logos in your deck, and you send me an awesome email. And then when it comes around to sponsorship season, you apply during the regular window. Put a reminder in your phone for people that you really want to apply for. It's amazing the amount of people that we would probably have offered a grassroots sponsorship that email us on November 1st and go, hey, I missed the sponsorship window. Yeah. And, you know, like, so you can't, take it serious. Put it on a calendar. And when the opportunity strikes, you gotta go after it.
Right on. Lost opportunity there. All right. So we have one question, and then we have 3 minutes left before we have to end. So everybody will get 30 seconds for last words. George, what's the question?
The question, I actually think Chris actually answered most of it. It was like building the relationship before you hand over the deck.
No,
so how important is that? Alex, maybe you answer this a little bit more. How important is it to go shake a guy's hand? Do you need to have seen him 10 times? Do you need to have seen him once? And then when do you deliver the deck at that point?
I try to get to know somebody to the point where when they see my face, they know my name. If they know my name when they see me, then it's time to hand them a deck. And after they understand what I do and what perhaps I could do for them, then it's time to send a proposal. But if they look at you and they don't know who you are, it's probably not yet time.
Yeah. And Chris,
that's my personal strategy.
Chris, you would agree with that?
Yeah, I'd say that's a great rule of thumb. You know, you can, if you trust yourself in reading people, we make it, if we're interested, you'll see it on our face. And other than that, that's a good rule of thumb, Alex.
All right, so let's end.
That's a good sign.
We're gonna do 30 minutes. Chris, why don't you start since you're on the screen? We'll go backwards. We'll go Chris, Megan, Dave, Ben, and then end with Joe. Last words of advice for a team looking for sponsorship, wanting to hand you a deck or a proposal. Just last words of advice, anything you can think of.
You are a brand. Build a brand that the company you're working with adds value to your brand and you add value to theirs. If you can figure out how to do that, you'll have no problem getting sponsored.
I love that, because value could be financial or it could be in brand equity,
product,
well, image.
It could be growing your value of who you are, make you look bigger, land other sponsors.
Megan, last words of advice?
You know, that was pretty much what I was going to say. And I think maybe we all are going to kind of say the same thing along the lines. But yes, try to make it personal, establish a relationship with them first before you send out that deck.
Right on. Thank you. Dave, then Ben, then Joe.
I would say understand the company that you're approaching and make sure you're winning.
You are all about winning. I'm telling you, going to win this weekend? I guess you are.
Hell yeah, we're going to win this weekend. That's what it's
How
all
can you
about.
not, right?
Hey, you guys don't know what it's like on Monday if I don't win. I get whipped.
That's true. Win on Sunday, sell on Monday. That's right on. Ben?
Yeah, so I agree with everything that's been said. The only other thing I might add would be showing that it's your focus, not your hobby. And that when we sponsor you, you're not going to turn around and be off focusing elsewhere, that we're still going to be a priority for you for that season. We're going to get the kind of love that we need, and you're going to fulfill the contract.
That's a great point. Yeah. You're hitting on stuff that I haven't thought of. Joe? Thanks, Ben.
I think one little niche is when I see teams working so hard to get to the race, and they're going to race in the morning, and then hopefully they finish, then they got to get home, and then they got to make a living. They got to focus on racing. They got to focus on winning. So maybe get a friend, a family member, or a young college intern person that wants to grow their, content creativity ability. Get somebody like that on your team. I'll hang out with them just as much as I'll hang out with you, so that person knows what they're going to be talking about when it comes to slime.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody that attended the summit, and thanks to all the panelists and speakers that were on the sessions. I think this is going to be a great one for the motocross industry and even motorsports in general for riders and athletes and racers to learn what companies and brands want from sponsorship, so they'll make them more valuable and they can help learn to create more value for their potential sponsor. So thank you, everybody. George, you have any final words? Then we will close it out. We'll see you guys next year at the 2023 Motocross Sponsorship Summit.
Everybody did a great job today. I learned a ton, so I can only imagine what the people watching learned. So thank you guys very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Right on. Good job, Alex. Thanks.